Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Sophie, bikini athlete, online coach, currently 4.5 weeks post-show and in my reverse diet. I'm going to take you for a little bit of a day in the life. I'll probably do maybe a reverse diet Q&A at the end as well. So I've already had meal one, I've already done cardio, I've already done my client check-ins for the day, and I'm just about to have my pre-workout meal, which I've just made behind me. So I've got 2 bagel thins. One is with chicken sausages, egg, tomatoes, barbecue sauce, and the other is with blackcurrant jam. It looks like it is a little bit burnt, but it is also just blackcurrant jam. So very, very similar foods to what I was eating on prep. But a little bit more, obviously. I'm going to go through it though. I am sticking to a lot of the same foods, just with some added extras. So I'm going to eat this. I'm going to head to the gym. I've got an upper body session today, which I will take you through and I will film. And then I will crack on with the rest of my day. Right, we are on our way to the gym. You wouldn't even believe it, I just locked myself out of my flat. I had to use my trusty tripod to open the door from the outside. I've had to do that once before with a fork, had to do it today with a tripod, so that was always fun. But we are going to do an upper session today, 10 minutes delayed, totally fine. Used some of the energy from my pre-workout meal, but that's okay. My wrist is now really sore from having to try and do it, but it is what it is. Let's go to the gym. Today's post-workout is a carbonara with spinach and stir fry. Always got to get the nutrient value, but it's banging, by the way. Oh, what a good workout. My shoulders are absolutely ruined. So as you see, Nick joined me for the workout today and he PT'd me through it. And I actually ended up doing Larsen press, which was the one that looked like bench press, but my legs were elevated instead of chest press. So if you remember at the start of my prep, I got a bit of a shoulder injury. and I had to not really press as much, and bench press really aggravated it, so I took bench press out. Seeing as he was with me and he's a powerlifting coach, I was like, let's try the bench press movement, but let's make sure that it is really just working the weak areas like the chest and the front delt. So take out any leg drive by lifting the legs up, and see how it feels. And it was absolutely fine on the shoulder, which is good. I only did 30 kilos and it felt hard, so I'm weak as piss. But that was really good, and it's great. Do you know what? It's a bittersweet session. It's a bittersweet session because it was a really good session, but it was really good because I had someone there calling me out on my BS. And it's so easy to get complacent when you're just taking yourself through your own sessions all the time. And that definitely kind of showed me that I've been getting complacent recently in my training. Now, I'm not going to be too hard on myself because I am only 4.5 weeks post-show. The first few weeks post-show, obviously, you can't get PBs. You can't push yourself that high because you're still recovering hormonally and you're still trying to gain some weight. Your body's getting used to having more energy, more food. So I'm not going to be too hard on myself that like I wasn't training as hard as I could have, because I couldn't really for a certain amount of time. But now I'm like 4.5 weeks post-show, coming up to 5 weeks this weekend. I should be able to push harder now. And it basically just like showed me the mirror, like it showed me myself and that I could be pushing harder in the gym, which is great. It's eye-opening every now and then. So I'm now just sat in my car. I had that little post-workout meal. It wasn't really little. It was carbonara with added stir fry, and I use like a lightest herb cream cheese, which is really, really nice. It brings the calories down a little bit, but it's still very cheesy and very creamy, which I love it. So glad I saved some from dinner last night. So I had that. I'm now sat in my car. I'm going to reply to some client messages. I always block out half-hour kind of gaps throughout my day, where I can sit down and just reply to messages, because obviously when you sign up for coaching and have the one-to-one service, you do have access to obviously my WhatsApp, my personal number. You can message me whenever. I reply between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. So if you message me between those times, you'll get a same day response. If you message me outside of those times, it'll go to the next day. But I like to make sure that anyone that messages me at 9 a.m. doesn't wait till 9 p.m. So as much as you're just like guaranteed a same day response, I try to make sure it is kind of every few hours. I do take that time. So I'm going to do that now and go home. I'm going to get into a little bit of a chat about how to reverse diet and answer some of the questions that I've got over Instagram the last few days. So reverse dieting is obviously after a fat loss phase, and you're basically taking yourself out of the calorie deficit. That's basically the idea. The first question I received was, I'm saying them off the top of my head and remembering them because I'm recording on my phone. The first question was, do you bump your calories back up to maintenance, or do you get there slowly? So let's break this down, and let's break this down with what it actually means to be in a deficit, what it actually means to be at maintenance, and what it actually means to be in a surplus. So let's give you a scenario. If you started your fat loss phase weighing, say, 70 kilos, or say pretty much in your adult life, you've always been in the 70 kilo range, 69 to 71 probably. If you were to start a fat loss phase, all you would need to do would be to track everything that you currently eat that's led you to weigh 70 kilos for your whole adult life. That is your maintenance. Whatever number that is your maintenance. And then obviously you take some away to put yourself into a deficit. Now, when you finish your fat loss phase, it's likely that you have never weighed this amount before, or you don't remember, you wouldn't have known how much you were eating when you last weighed this weight, because you probably weren't tracking it then. So you don't actually know what your maintenance at that weight is. So it's very, very difficult to be like, okay, I'm just going to bump my calories up to maintenance, because now you have a new maintenance. And if you jump your calories back up to your old maintenance, you're just going to gain weight back, right? Then you have to ask yourself, are you actually looking to maintain, or are you looking to gain weight? So for example, for bikini athletes and for myself specifically, I wasn't looking to maintain weight. I wasn't trying to maintain stage condition. We can't maintain stage condition. We want to gain some weight back. So technically we have to put ourselves into a calorie surplus. If we keep ourselves in a deficit, if we put ourselves at maintenance, we're just prolonging the amount of time we're spending that lean, which isn't healthy. So we have to put ourselves back into a surplus. So to give you a bit of an example of that, I think one of my clients, for example, at the end of her prep, I think the lowest her calories ever went. Well, let me use myself as an example. I'm pretty sure the lowest my calories ever went, which was for 2 or 3 days at a time, was about 1,200. My week 1 of my reverse, my calories were at 2,400. So pretty much doubled the lowest calories I'd ever been on. And I actually only gained about 1 kilo and then maintained from there. So that actually was technically my new maintenance, because I didn't really gain anything, and that extra kilo was just the food in my digestive system. So you do have to probably, if you were to gain some weight back afterwards, you're probably going to end up eating more than you think you will, because you're technically wanting to put yourself into a surplus. Now, say for example, if you've been on a fat loss phase for general weight loss, general health, lifestyle, and you are looking to maintain that scale weight, I think it's important to remember you're trying to maintain a scale weight range. You're not trying to maintain your lowest scale weight, because our scale weight always fluctuates. So you're probably going to fluctuate anywhere between 1 to 2 kilos higher than your lightest scale weight that you did hit, right? Because some of that is going to be extra food in the digestive system, like I just mentioned. So when you do increase your food, some of that food is going to be, some of that extra scale weight is going to be the extra food in your digestive system. It might be because you can train harder in the gym and you have a bit more inflammation, all of those things. So to answer the question, when you are reversing, whether or not you jump up to maintenance or get there slowly is going to be very dependent on what you want as the outcome. If you are a competition client, you're technically going to be putting yourself into a surplus. If you are a lifestyle client, you're technically going to put yourself at maintenance. But you'll have to find that new maintenance. So in order to find that new maintenance, you can either add a slight bump up that's lower than your previous maintenance. So for example, if your previous maintenance was around 2,300, you could probably go to 2,100, for example. The other thing to remember is that your maintenance calories are going to be a range. So my personal maintenance calories are between 2,000 and 2,400. That's where I can just maintain. So there's no specific number that you have to be at. There would be a range. So with that in mind, I would have no problem jumping someone up to what I thought their new maintenance would be, because you're probably going to fall within that range somewhere, and you can move that around a little bit. Second question I've had is, how am I handling the post-show weight gain, and how do I deal with those like body image days? Now, I've never really been one to have, I guess, like bad body image days. Like I can't, not to sit on a high horse or anything like that, but I've never really been too critical of how I look or too kind of in favor. I've always been involved in sport. So for me, my body is just like, my body performs for the sport that I'm doing. As of right now, that does involve how I look, but I'm technically working towards a criteria, if that makes sense, rather than working towards what I think is attractive. Now, don't get me wrong, as soon as the bikini days are over, I'll be just training booty and going off the look that I think is really attractive. But yeah, so I've never really been too bothered about how I look. However, that doesn't mean that I don't get any bad body image days post-show, and I definitely have. There's definitely been times I've caught myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh my god, I'm really bloated. And obviously I did speak a lot in my last video about how my bloating has been really bad, because I'm obviously still eating for volume, high in fiber foods and stuff like that, and seeing that bloating every single day after the first like 2 or 3 meals, it's not nice to see. You know, I don't ever feel like I cover up or anything like that when I'm experiencing it, because I will just own it, but it's still not nice to see. Like I'm still a bit like, oh my god, like my waist looks so wide, even though I know it's not. Like I know it's the bloating, but it is difficult and it does happen. And I think the biggest tip that I have is, when you first notice yourself worrying about it, like you need to like counter that and challenge that thought straight away. So I remember like, this is going to sound so disgusting, but I'll be completely honest. When I was first post-show, I was initially like, oh my god, like the scales are really going to jump up now, like we're going to have to start seeing them go the other way. And I always weigh myself after going to the toilet, of course, to keep it standard, but I would sit on the toilet for like a couple of minutes longer to try and like see if there was anything else that was going to come out, because then I'm like, oh, but then I'll weigh lighter. And then you have to challenge that. Like I instantly realized realized I was doing that, and I was like, no, like, we're not gonna do that just to try and see a lighter weight on the scale, because that's not a behavior we need to get into. That's a behavior we need to understand we don't need to do, challenge it straight away. And now I'm not even bothered. Sometimes I'll forget and weigh myself before I've been to the toilet, but it's because I've challenged that and I've gone, no, I shouldn't be thinking that. No, we're not doing that. But it is very easy to fall into difficult habits. It is very easy to feel worried about weight gain, worried about body image. But I do really encourage you to challenge any thoughts you are experiencing. Ask yourself, why am I actually doing that? Like, why am I thinking that? Why am I doing that? Is that actually helping me right now? Or is it just distracting me from what the actual goal is, which is to gain some weight in a healthy way? And the other thing that I was going to say is you really want to start to flick that switch. So when you do start thinking those things, I've said this to other people, like, write a list of pros and cons. The pros of being in a reverse and the cons of being in a fat loss phase, because you have just experienced a fat loss phase where losing weight, being in a deficit, and everything that comes with that has been a positive, and you now need to start looking at those things as a negative, because it's not going to help your goal if you focus on those things. And all of the positives of weight gain you have to focus on. So I would literally write a list, the positives of weight gain, the negatives of weight loss, and really go with that, and really remind yourself of that. If you have to put it on the fridge, put it on the fridge. You get what I'm saying? And when it comes to handling the bad body image days, I think it is very person dependent. I know a lot of people that prefer to just wear a pump cover. You know, when you're at your leanest, you might have worn crop top and shorts a lot of the time. Some people prefer to wear a pump cover because it makes them feel more comfortable. For myself personally, and I know for some other people, if I put on a pump cover, then I feel like I'm almost giving into that feeling. And actually for me, I find it more empowering personally if I just wear the crop top and shorts. And I think, do you know what, if anybody else is looking at me wondering anything, that's on them, because this is just the part of the experience that I'm in right now. And so I actually, I was in the gym the other day and I was really bloated after a meal, and I thought, do you know what, I'm not covering up. I'm not going to do it, because I don't care if people look. I don't care if I look different now. This isn't going to affect my training session. And actually for me, that helped me. So everyone is very different in that sense. Another question I had is meal inspo when you're in your reverse. So sometimes when you are in a fat loss phase, you do get very creative with different meals, because obviously you have less calories to play with. You have to be more specific with your macros, and you'll find yourself doing things to be a lot more creative, to make meals taste nice and stuff like that. And you get that like inspo, and a lot of the recipe guides out there are always catered towards fat loss, aren't they? So when you're in a reverse, it's very easy to just go back to eating normally, or go back to ordering loads of takeaways, or getting loads of fast food, or eating whatever the hell you want and not even thinking about it. But actually that's probably not going to help your reverse. Firstly, because you wouldn't have eaten loads of those foods whilst in a fat loss phase, and you want to reintroduce things slowly to help with your digestion. But other than that as well, we obviously want to control the weight gain or control us maintaining the weight depending on our goal. So reintroducing new foods slowly. So what I'd recommend doing is taking a lot of the meals and foods that you had a lot of the time in your fat loss phase, and seeing what you could add to it that you're going to enjoy a little bit more, but it's going to keep things a lot more stable. So for example, when I was on prep, I always had chicken and rice with veg and cheese. Obviously typical bodybuilder, but I always had chicken and rice. So now I'm still having chicken, I'm still having the veg, and I'll add like a curry sauce, a jar of curry sauce, or I'll swap out the rice for pasta and have a cheese sauce or a bolognese sauce, or whatever it is. It's still technically a very similar meal. I have my chicken, my veg, my carb sauce, and I'm just adding something different each time. For those different jars of sauces, like the curry jars, the bolognese jars, the cheese jars, all of them ones, like the dolmio ones, they're all very similar macros. So actually, if you just swap the meat, swap the carb sauce, and then swap the jar, it's like so many different meals, but very dissimilar macros. So that is something that I highly recommend. Same as the meal you saw earlier when I had bagels, chicken sausages and eggs. I've been swapping around that carb sauce. Sometimes I'll have bagels, crumpets, pancakes, ciabatta, whatever carb sauce I actually want that goes with the sausages and eggs, I just swap it out. So it's a very similar meal, but I'm like There's certain things that I fancy more than others, if that makes sense. So little things like that, try and stick to some of the similar foods, but think, what can I add in? And then you're switching it up a lot more each day. I think that's so much better, because I remember in previous years, or even this year actually, I said to someone before, oh, I used to have oats all prepped previously and then I just never have them in off season. I'm like, but why don't I have them in off season? Like, if I really like them on prep, why do I just forget about them in off season? And there's been times in off season where I wouldn't have hit my macros because I hadn't planned my meals in advance, and it's like, what am I doing? So I highly recommend doing that. I am going to leave that there for today. Thank you so much for following along. I hope the advice on how to reverse diet was really, really helpful. I am obviously going to keep up these weekly vlogs. I'm going to put my Instagram on the screen now as well, so do follow me along there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.